this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. And on my personal side of life, I've decided that one day a week I'm going to have a naughty day, and that day is today. So we're having a steak tea. It's got 3 vegetables, yeah. But it's also got a wine and onion sauce, and it's red meat and this, that, and I'm going to thoroughly enjoy it, and I will go over my wine allocation for the day. That's today. And then tomorrow we'll go back to sticking to the rules. Not that there are that many rules. But today's going to be my bad day. And then after I've had my meal, I will settle down and probably watch a film. And I might even stay awake through all of it. I'm just doing this quick video. I've analysed the comments about thinking up subjects for a talk, and basically it comes into 3 categories. Subjects that are suitable for a talk to give to an orchid society, bearing in mind the types of people there will be there. There's another category that will be great for chats, things like the Sunday chat or just an impromptu chat video. And there are those that are really good subjects for an actual video, or possibly in some cases even a little mini series. And what I thought I'd do is go through them quickly. They're in my note form, so they will get elaborated on when they get done. But I have to go over the page, and we've got 20 items. I'm amazed. That's brilliant. And some of these I wouldn't have thought of myself. Some I would have done, but I still needed the prompt, if you see what I mean. So quite a few people came in. This will be suitable for both videos and chats, one or the other or both. Is a discussion on mounts, the pros and cons of mounting orchids, types of wood you might want to use, types of wood you definitely don't want to use. Now I know of a few of those. I haven't had experience of it, but others have, and you know, that comes in, and that will get on to another subject in a minute. The types of orchids that are most suited to mounts, and given that we all grow epiphytes, every epiphyte can be mounted. The discussion really is about how much work do you want to do, because an orchid that should never dry out on a mount is going to take some work. In warm weather, you could be watering 3 or 4 times a day. Have you got that time? Yeah. So discussion there. And why switch from a pot to a mount? And in some cases, why switch from a mount back to a pot? So there's a subject there, a whole subject. Number 2, variety of orchids. When you've got a small space, in a case like mine, a confined space, I'm not prepared to migrate my orchids into every windowsill in the house and every room in the house. So what I'll call a small space. What compromises do you have to make to try different types of orchids in a small space where you've got very limited variety in environmental factors, but you have got some, yeah? So we'll talk about compromises you have to make if you're going to grow in this sort of environment, and where those little microclimates are. I've done that before, but in a subject. Number 3, Dendrobiums. This came up a bit. It could be because I've got a few, and people have twigged that the way I talk about my orchids, there are some orchid types in here that if they weren't here, I wouldn't cry. But if my Dendrobiums went missing, I probably would. So there's some favouritism going on there. So I've split mine up into sets. What are those sets, and why are these types of Dendrobiums in different sets? And the different types of care for each of those. And covering that over the 4 seasons. That's a talk. So well done the people who... That's not one person suggested that, it's bits from suggestions amalgamated together. So that's a talk. So that's talk number 1. Number 4, orchids of similar care in my environment. Obviously I can only talk about my environment. And the use of companion plants. So what orchids do well together types of orchids I'm on about, and I won't be going down to specific species, but that makes a nice chat about what orchids can you grow together. You'd be surprised how many different genera you can put together and say these all need the same environmental care. You might have to vary your watering and feeding, but the environment you can keep them in is the same. So it's a nice little subject for a chat there. Number 5, something like the project orchids. It would need me to keep clips, which I don't do. Once a video is loaded onto YouTube, everything that went into it gets deleted. So I haven't got them. So like if you think about, I've just started the Project Orchids Update 2, and we've done part 1. All the video clips that went into part 1 have now been deleted, they're gone. The updates, part 1, parts 1, 2, 3 and 4, update 1, all those video clips are gone, I delete them, I can't store them all. But something that covers a selection of orchids, like the Project Orchids do, but my Project Orchids are divided up into sets. You know, you've got the Cattleya types, the Oncidium types, whatever the rest are, I've forgotten. But something like that, but perhaps half a dozen orchids, starting in late winter, early spring, and doing like I do with the Project Orchids, have a good look and a chat about them, and then move on to 3 months later. Not all the same type though. In this particular project, they would be of different types. So perhaps a Cattleya, an Oncidium type, an intergeneric, and one of my cooler shadier types. So that the variety's there. That then covers my environmental conditions, pushing the boundaries possibly, and showing the variety that I get away with in here, just about in some cases. But that's a talk. Yeah, that's a good one. So something like the Project Orchids, but I'd have to start keeping clips, basically, because I don't at the moment. I haven't got the space. Plus, in the past, I've never needed them. If you take somebody like, well, I'll pick on Danny, she always gets picked on, because she's probably been going one of the longest, and she picks on clips in her orchids that come from quite a while ago, so she must store an awful lot of data, or she's found a way of recovering it. Once my video's loaded on YouTube, I can extract it again by doing screenshots or screen captures, but some of the quality's lost. You know, the quality of this camera is pretty high. The quality of the camera is an awful lot higher than what you see on YouTube, because it gets knocked down in the various stages it goes through. But the camera is of the highest quality, or pretty high. Anyway, so that's one. Number 6 is a chat, really, a set environment. So choose orchids to suit. Pushing your boundaries. What do you think you might get, what do I think people might get away with? And what have I got away with, and what have I not got away with? Yeah, that sort of thing. And you know, when you find something that actually works, even though you might be pushing those boundaries, well, repeat it, get some more of those, and when it doesn't work, don't get any more. You know, a nice little subject topic there. Either a video or a talk, or both. Telumnias. In my opinion, one of the ultimate space savers that don't need any form of real special environment. So chat about those and their care and choosing between potting, mounting, all that sort of stuff. Plus the environment they feel comfortable in, which includes parts of your home. These are not greenhouse type dedicated orchids by any means. And boy, can you cram a lot in a small space. This little space I've got up here is what? A metre by 1/3 of a metre. I could get 20 Telumnias on there. Or I could get 4 Cattleyas types. So yeah, there's a nice little one there. Number 8 then. When your collection is too big, what are the thought processes that go into rationalization, as I've done it several times. So I have some subject matter there with some valid experience. So how do you, everybody, their collection gets big. Once you get hooked, once you've got the bug, your collection will grow. The limitation is your workload and your space. We all know that. We've done that loads of times. But if you overcook it, like many of us do, and I have done, how do you rationalize? What do you get rid of? And how? There's the bin or the hedge, whatever you want to call it, or you can pass them to friends or sell them. So we'll have a go at that sort of thing. That's a chat. Another chat, my biggest mistakes and the solutions, if there were any. Sometimes you make a mistake and there isn't a solution, it's just you've made it, too late, don't do it again. But there's a chat there. Number 10, the interpretation of the information you can find on the internet about the environment a species grows in. Obviously you can't deal with hybrids here, it's species only, but how do you find that information about where that orchid grows and how do you interpret it? There's wording that various places use, like cool to warm grower. What does that really mean? So there's a nice little chat there. And how do you convert those expressions, phrases and the information you can find into how you can look after them cultivated? Yeah? And what compromises might you have to make, because you will. Replicating the wild environment, I will say now, is almost impossible. We get as close as we can and we bend the rules. And we find orchids that don't mind those rules being bent, and we grow lots of those. And those that won't put up with it, we don't grow so many of those. Right, number 11. Different types of media, pros and cons. I won't be incredibly good at that, and a lot of that information will have to be based on others, because I don't use very many media types. But we'll have a go at that. That's a chat, obviously. Another chat. Problems and fixes by genus. So you think, like from my point of view, like say, right, let's pick on Masdevallias. I haven't got many, but what problems have I had and have I been able to fix them? And then move on to say, nobly type Dendrobiums. What problems have they? Yeah, that sort of thing. So that's a chat, obviously. Another suitable chat, 14. Rootless and dehydrated orchids, ways to get them going again. Well, you can talk to them, as I often do. We don't publish those words. Not suitable. Right, number 15. This could be a talk, could be a video, could be both. Most things that will end up as a talk will be a video as well, even if it's only the video of the talk, because that's how my talks work, if that made sense, hopefully. Right, the transition from a beginner. What is a beginner? Well, it's somebody who's just started growing orchids that's only got a few, in my definition. That doesn't mean they don't know what they're doing. Don't get me wrong. I've seen people walk into an orchid society as a new member. Oh, hello, who are you? Welcome. So many of the old school naturally assume they're a beginner. They may have been growing longer than you have. They've only just joined the Orchid Society. They may have had a vast collection at house number 1 and had to give the whole thing up to move to house number 2, and they've just started again. So they've only got a few orchids, but they know more than you do because they've been doing it a lot longer. Yeah. So the transition from a true beginner with just a few orchids and perhaps not a lot of knowledge to getting more and more orchids until at some point you've got lots. At which point you probably want less. Cross over with another subject previously. And if you want less, how do you select? And are you now specialising? What's the thought process that goes from all these different orchids in all these different places in your house, and some in your greenhouse and some hanging on the wall, to actually rationalising downwards and thinking, this type of orchid or these few types of orchids do really well for me. Let's get rid of the rest and concentrate on these. You've specialised. So processes to get there. Talk or a video there somewhere. Number 16, this could be a video or a chat or a bit of both. How to build a collection. Discussions on the space you've got. What type of space is it? Do you want all your orchids together like I do? I don't want these all over the house in loads of different rooms, including rooms I never go in, because I'd have to go in there just for those orchids, yeah? So do you want them all together? Do you want to utilise the different spaces because you want to grow different types of orchids? Then you've got a discussion in there about convenience, because if you've got quite a lot of your orchids up in the spare bedroom and you need to get them into the kitchen to water them, you're not going to be happy traipsing up and down your stairs with all those orchids. So you've got to look at the convenience of where you're going to keep them and your access to things like water and power, because the chances are you're going to want something in the form of a gadget, even if it's only a fan. Yeah. So those sort of things have to be considered. Number 17 is a chat, and this one really caught my imagination. Imagine growing your orchid collection with no YouTube. Doesn't exist. Think that through. That has 2 points of call. Those that use it to watch, learn, listen and all that and get ideas for types of orchids to grow, and those that use it to actually be part of their hobby, like me. You know, so imagine what life would be like growing orchids with no YouTube. What would be the consequences? That's a good one, I love that. Number 18, seasonal care changes. Pick some specific genera with examples, so I'd have to stick to what I know, obviously, and what I've got, and take them through the 4 seasons. What really changes through those 4 seasons, both in the environmental factors and what you have to do to respond to them, to cater for them, yeah? Like when stuff's growing like mad, feed and water well. I'm sure you've heard that before somewhere. Probably. So that's quite a good one. That's a video. That's a good one. Another video. How interpretation of research can go wrong. So in other words, you've started a new, possibly genus or type within that genus, and you've done your homework. We always do our homework before we get the orchid, don't we? We don't get the orchid and then try and work out whether we can look after it or not, do we? Of course we don't. We do at first, but then we learn not to, hopefully. But yeah, when you do your research and you think you've found all the information you need to grow this, and then it don't work, and you have to backtrack and find what you missed. What did you get wrong? Because that's all it'll be. You've missed something or you misinterpreted some of the information. And let's face it, we do get some contradictory information on the internet. That's something we have to live with, which you wouldn't have to live with if there was no YouTube. So that's that one, and that's a good video. And another good video, my top 10 Dendrobiums with the care for each of them and why they're different. Because they're not all the same. You know, you must have gathered that by now with the ones I've got. And bear in mind that I think apart from bulbophyllums, Dendrobiums are the biggest genus within the orchid world. And a lot of people don't appreciate that. There are more types of Dendrobiums than any other genus apart from possibly bulbophyllums, but bulbophyllums are now getting split up. So maybe Dendrobiums are at the top of the pile now. So that's 20 items I got out of those comments. I am over the moon. Really, I am over the moon. That's given me so much material. It will last me a long time, and it's good to cover the talks with an S, because that's going to be more than one there, which gives me a spare, possibly 2 for emergencies or next year or whatever, yeah. plenty of video subjects and plenty of chat subjects. So we won't be short of subjects for Sundays, yeah? I still haven't got loads of questions to do question time. So, you know, we missed it again this week because I've got 2 at the moment. That's not enough to do a, you know, to do a go. But with this, I am over the moon. So thank you, and a big thank you for getting your heads together and all those little bits getting gathered together to make 20 items, many of which I didn't have before. Some of those I could have thought up myself, but I didn't. I needed the spark, I needed the trigger. And as I said, I've amalgamated some together that were a bit loose or a bit thin to get a good meaty subject. So I'm well pleased. Thank you for your help. I'm going to do it again. I'm not going to do it every time, but I'm going to do it this time because a lot of people will still be here. If you are watching and you are not subscribed, please think about doing so. I really do want to get to that 10k. And it's getting there, it really is. We're up to 9, what did I see last time I looked? 9,750-ish I think we're up to. So we're heading towards the 9,000. I tick them off in hundreds. So when we get to 9,800, a big tick, only 2 to go, if you see what I mean. So let's keep it going. For those of you who are new, who've just found me or been recommended to come and have a look or a listen, if you're unsubscribed, please think about doing so. And I will see you tomorrow for my Sunday chat, which will be one of these. Yay! Don't know which one yet, and I wouldn't tell you if I'd already decided. We'll work that out tomorrow. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by. And again, a big thank you for all these ideas. Oh, well appreciated. And I've just thought of something else. If you run your own YouTube channel, don't go nicking all my ideas, because some of these won't get done for ages. Oh. Feel free. We will each, if everybody on YouTube who does videos was given the same subject and a time zone, you know, you've got 10 minutes to talk about that subject, they'd all be different, wouldn't they? See you next time.